The word for you today again is mentor, our third day of finding a mentor. 1 Corinthians 11:1 says, "Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ." Paul is telling the Corinthians, follow me, imitate me. Oh, but imitate me when I'm imitating Christ. We've all heard athletes and entertainers who say, I'm not a role model, don't pay any attention to me. Well, they can talk all day long, they're just wasting their breath, because people do watch them. They do imitate them. You see them because they wear their jerseys, they wear their ball caps, they wear their emblems on them, and they do look at them as role models. And many of them are bad role models. There are some good ones, and we need to pray for them. But are you a role model? You say, me? No. I bet you are. I bet somebody is watching you and imitating you. If you have children, you have grandchildren, if you have nieces and nephews, they're watching you. They are watching you. So how can we be good role models? Well, let's let Jesus be our example. First thing, integrity. Jesus was a man of integrity. He was the same way in private as he was in public, and we know that from reading the scriptures. So he's a man of integrity. He was humble. He didn't think more of himself than others, and that's a call to us. Not to look down on other people. Remember when Jesus washed the disciples' feet? He even washed Judas's feet, even knowing that Judas was going to turn on him. Man, that's true humility. Sometimes it's hard to be kind to somebody who's mean to us. That's true humility. Just don't be proud about it, okay? Third thing, he was a servant. We need to be a servant. Be willing to help others. And we had a Sunday when we did the Lord's Supper, and we didn't have enough guys to serve it. So we just asked, and my goodness, guys just jumped up and came up. That was so exciting. They were just being a servant. They were saying, okay, here's a need. I'll step up and help with this. Don't be afraid to serve others. There was a pastor of a large church that there was an event going on at their church, and it was over, and somebody had gone and they discovered that they had left their cell phone at the church, and so they went back hoping that somebody would be there. And it was in the wee hours of the morning, and they saw somebody in there vacuuming, and they knocked on the door, and the person came over and let him in. They found their phone, but what really surprised them was the person doing the vacuum was the pastor of that church. And he said, please don't tell anybody. He said, I want to be a servant. I want to do things, but without anybody knowing. That man is truly a servant. Jesus spent long hours teaching, serving, healing people. Fourth thing, listen and care. Listen and care. Jesus listened to people who were hurting. He had compassion on them. Remember when Jesus heard that John the Baptist, his cousin, had been beheaded? Jesus was hurting, and he and the disciples went off by themselves to rest, and Jesus just to grieve. And this crowd of people following him, and Jesus says, look, they're as a group of sheep with no shepherd. And he couldn't help but stop and meet their needs, even though he was hurting so much. Listen to people, and then care about them. That's another thing about Jesus that we can imitate. And then pray. Pray for family, pray for others. Pray privately, definitely. Pray publicly when you have the opportunity. But find a mentor. Jesus is the best mentor we can find. Remember, be a person of integrity. Be humble. Be a servant. Listen, truly listen and care. And pray. And it'll be amazing what God can do. There was a hip-hop artist named Lecrae Moore, and he came from a terrible home situation. He was abused as a child. He grew up on the streets. He was involved in drugs, stealing, alcohol, sex, gang activity. He was so wild that people around him called him Crazy Cray. But something happened in his life. What happened? Well, there was a man that came into his life. Now, Lecrae was a black man, but it was a white man who came into his life and showed him what Christianity truly was. Christianity wasn't just a religion. Christianity was a relationship, and Christianity was truth. And when you embrace Christianity, it is truth. And when you live that out, it makes a difference in your life. Today, this is a man who has ministries. He has been incredibly successful in his field of music, and he was mentored by somebody, and you know what? Today he is being a mentor to many, many young people. Our lessons have been find a mentor. Jesus is the best mentor you can find. You say, well, I just don't know anybody to follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. And you know, a funny thing will happen. When you start following Jesus, somebody's going to find you, and you will be a mentor. You say, hey, I don't want that. And it's really not about what we want. It's about us being who God has called us to be. And if you will allow Jesus to be your mentor, wouldn't it be something? Somebody you really cared about had you as a mentor? Have a good day.